director here at After Action Studios. We are a podcast that really caters to veterans and our mission in life. We're all veterans here, and we try to amplify the voice of the veterans, tell those stories out here, and having great guests on here just to talk about cool stuff, man. We really like the story.
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name's Chris Hayes. I'm the COO here at After Action Network. We're a nonprofit organization. We really are kind of the man behind the scenes connecting VSOs, veterans, and just doing general outreach. And we'll touch a couple of different things throughout this podcast probably later on, but it's a really honor to have you on. Thank you.
Hi, sir. My name's Andy. I'm a veteran navigator. I am like a resource broker. I am familiar with our database when a veteran needs help, if they're in crisis, or even if they need plumbing help. I jump to the chance to help them, and that's what I do.
Nice.
Yeah, they're a good group of guys, and we help them every chance that we get. So we really appreciate you jumping on the line to talk with them about some cool stuff. I mean, we talk about all kinds of stuff on here. We've Barbecue. We talked about barbecue the other day. We talked about
Dr. Bob
Kaufman. We went into some of his research. I mean, we've been going all over the place with this talk show. But
cool.
Yeah, it's fun. And we're really, really big fans of yours. We've all grown up watching fighting since we were kids, and I just got to say, sir, you have been a pleasure to watch in your career, and thanks for everything you've put your body through. I appreciate that.
No problem.
The
commentary. Yeah. So for the XFN Dale Cook Show here in Oklahoma, I've worked for about 3 or 4 years now, and then for the last probably 3 or 4 shows, we've been on Fight Pass also. So we're back to actually, this will be the first live event that has fans, I think, in any sporting capacity in the U.S. We're not at full capacity. We're only at 38% because they obviously wanted us to start off slow. And, but as far as having actual legitimate cheering fans and an audience for a sporting event, that'll happen tonight.
Oh, wow.
Rock on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, not very much going on in terms of sports. So something does.
Can you pull your mic up some?
Whenever something does, I mean, I'm sure everyone's just happy to have a chance to get out.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. You know what? I've always made jokes that in my, sometimes when people put me on too high of a pedestal, I've had fans of my guys. I'm an entertainer. Like, really, my contribution to society. I'm not a doctor or a firefighter or somebody that, let's be realistic here. I beat people up for a living, and you pay to watch.
And those people help them recover.
But learning how much actually our sporting world, entertainment world actually means to people as far as their mental health, actually blew my mind as far as how they were, it gives people, a distraction from their everyday life. It gives them motivation to do things in their, as far as why they, gives them goal setting and some kind of ability to, to look up to somebody to sit there and go, okay, well, how are you guys doing this? Or how am I going to do this? And so I actually realized how much more important entertainment that factor is than I've ever given credit to in the past.
What is it like psychologically? What you're laying in bed and thinking, hey, I'm a modern day gladiator?
It's funny. I think that the type of mindset that people have to do the things that I do, it's not the healthiest. Sometimes that's why probably I stay with my wife as much as I can. She's kept me from being a little too crazy. Just because, for example, I'm going to try to say one that won't upset her. Opportunities will come to my, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And my wife will have to sit there and go, we'll call you back. And she's like, why are you going to do that? I'm like, why not? She goes, because that's a below you? Like, what are you thinking? Like, I know you don't think you're a big deal, but you've accomplished more than just hanging out at the side selling lemonade. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, well, if other people are okay to do it, I'm okay to do it. So the mindset of thinking anytime that you've accomplished something, I think that makes you content. And I'm just not a very content person.
Wow. And you might have just had the first Zoom selfie from a fan.
Oh, yeah. Just a completely random
Yeah.
person too. I mean, I know when you were visiting last that people were stopping you. It seemed like every couple of minutes to take a picture with you. I mean, how's that? How do you navigate that?
No, I mean, it's a part of what I do. And in fact, I always laugh when I hear people belly moan, and I feel like it's just kind of a cry of attention. Like, I hate being famous, and I'm like, hey guys, when I go to Disneyland, I don't have to stand in line. Like, I mean, like this whole fame thing, it's kind of cool. Like, I mean, obviously, like nothing's perfect. Are there times where I'm having an argument? People can have a disagreement with their spouse and not look over and have somebody sit there going, hey, can I get a picture real quick? There are some awkward moments that have occurred, but hell, for the most part, I enjoy it. It gets me out of shopping with my wife because anytime she's like, I need your help at the, Costco to, grab stuff. Things are too heavy. I'm like, all right, I'll go. And then I end up, staying, talking to 4 or 5 different people walking up and she, she ends up pushing the cart around. I'm like, hey, I told you I can't come to Costco with you.
No grocery duties.
Yeah, no grocery duties. I get out of some stuff. So
I was watching an interview recently with you, and you're talking about your daughter getting into fighting. How has that brought you closer together?
Well, it's awesome because I get to spend a lot of time together. The COVID thing, the pandemic that's going on right now, a lot of people are, obviously there's a lot of negative to it, but that's life, man. Life always throws you curveballs. And if you can't live within the comfort zone of what is good out of a situation, you'll drive yourself insane.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, my finances hell, I make my money in the entertainment world. If I'm not teaching or traveling or fighting, I'm not putting money in the bank and pulling money out every day. So, I mean, in that aspect, I understand everybody's pain. But instead of sitting there and dwelling upon that, I'm like, oh, well, you know what? I get to go to the gym several times a day with my kids. We all hang out together now. Like I get to spend more time with my family than I had previously been able to do. And so, it's been a lot of positives. And, especially since, all my kids love sports and they're very, much into athletics. We all weight lift together. We all train together. And then Bella and I, because she's more into wanting to be a fighter right now than the other two are, we go to the other practices together and we sit and talk and hang out. I'll be in my room watching a YouTube video on a certain maneuver, and she's in her room, and I'll send her the video, and then she'll walk into my room and we'll talk about it. Like, well, hey, the other day when I was telling you to pinch down on the knee, this guy's doing it, he's explaining it. He has a really good, a system for it. Let's, tomorrow in practice, maybe before, and so that kind of, of talk shop I get to do with my daughter now, definitely makes us much closer. And like I said, I'm enjoying, I always try to enjoy everything out of life.
For sure. When I watched this last podcast you did stem cell. And I'm a really big fan of that whole technology and everything it's done. And it's gotten so big in the past years. Can you speak upon that a little bit?
Yeah, I got actually addressed, or what's the word I'm looking for? Approached by the guys down at BioAccelerator. They have a facility out there in Medellin, Colombia. And so they just explained to me at the time that, hey, look, stem cell. And obviously I had read what had happened with the quarterback from that went, man.
Alex Smith?
No, fractured his neck and then ended up having a Super Bowl ring afterwards.
Oh, who was that?
One of those famous quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's Peyton Manning, I believe.
Peyton Manning.
Thank you. Forehead.
Yeah, Manning had fractured his neck when he was with the Colts.
Thank you.
And then had struggled with it, and then went overseas and had stem cells done, and came back, and obviously, added a Super Bowl ring to his resume. So I definitely a keen interest, but the same thing I was always hearing from other people that possibly that the U.S. was being overregulated and wasn't allowing the freedom of some of the research that was possible in other countries. So. when they offered me the opportunity to go down there and try it out, Chuck had gone down there. Matt Hughes had already done it, and they were saying was seeing some pretty significant benefits, especially with some of the head trauma that he's received. And so I went down there and did it, and I had my shoulders and knees done, and a couple other areas that I have chronic injuries. Fracturing my hand all the time now as I've gotten older, and so. It took probably about 2 or 3 months before I started really noticing a significant difference. But now it's amazing as far as how much better my knees and, I'm able to work out like I did before. And it's been probably, years where I really addressed, most of my workouts were always catered around what hurts and what I was able to do and not what needed to be done. And so now actually I'm able to train and my strength, I'm actually stronger than I've ever been right now at 41 years of age due to the fact that I can train relatively injury-free.
And to your opponent, that's terrifying.
Yeah, no, my style of fighting definitely being able to grab onto things and
a lot of pressure, dude. Oh my God. I think about the big Nog fight, and you were strong as hell then, and you're stronger now? Crazy.
Just over the years, there's so many injuries of training, and sometimes, my sport of MMA is relatively new, If you were to walk outside and see a guy, a lineman saying he's going to go run 20 miles, people are like, that's not how you're supposed to get in shape for this.
Yeah.
Well, I've read that, the triathlon guys, that's how I'm going to get in shape for, to go be a defensive tackle, in college. It's like, no, that's not what you need to do. We actually have, guys that have done it and at a high level. And because there's so much money behind it, there's a very efficient way of training. And, MMA just had that. You have guys that, hell, you still have sometimes coaches that are managing people and people that are training people for a fight that have never fought themselves. And they're regurgitating information that, they got off a bodybuilding website, not necessarily even for athletes. So I've taken my share of bumps and bruises from being basically an experiment, to most people who coached, for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so, that comes with, some adversity to it. And so, be able to turn back that clock with stem cells and being able to, address some of the injuries. And now with the knowledge I have and now with a body that feels healthier, it's definitely a great combination.
Sure.
Yeah. What would you say to a veteran who's trying to get back in this the shape that they were when they were in the military? I got a lot of veterans that I help where we simply just go on walks. I'm getting some sweet running shoes today, some Ultras. I love those shoes, and I'm ready to run. I'm just looking for motivation. And what should I say to those guys and girls?
Well, I think what a lot of guys make a mistake of, and this is one thing that I probably say it multiple times a day at the gym when people are trying to ask me for advice, is anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. And everybody always wonders what I mean when I say that. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. When you were 18 years old and you didn't have a wife or kids to worry about, and someone else was waking you up every morning, the table was set for you. It was all or nothing. You just made the investment of saying, I'm going to do this. And you jumped in there and you were at a high level. And that's what you reap the benefits from. Sometimes when guys now, as they get older, now you have a wife, you have a different job, you have children, you have other obligations on the table that are consuming your time. They get there in their mind, like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go to the gym at 6 o'clock and then I'm going to eat breakfast at this time and I'm going to do this. And things don't work out that way. So instead they sit there and they go, well, screw it. Why bother doing any of it? I didn't start off right. I didn't get up on time. I didn't make it to the gym. Instead of me still eating relatively healthy, I'm just going to, it's Taco Bell and beers for the rest of the day. Screw it. And I'm like, well, that was dumb. So because you didn't do it perfectly, you didn't do it at all. Do you think that really improved you? Whereas there's times, I travel and there's times I'm in the gym, I can work out well. There's times where that's not accessible to me. I end up doing, push-ups and squats inside of a hotel room. Is that as good as me being home and having my meals planned out and meeting a trainer and lifting? No, it's not as good. I'm not trying to fool anybody and think that that's going to replace. But I still moved the needle in a positive direction. I still improved a little bit I still didn't go backwards. And so I think when I talk to people that are older, it's like, hey, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Get rid of that mindset. Realize that if you can go for a walk, just because you didn't go run 3 miles in 18 minutes doesn't mean that you're failing. Now, if you stay in bed all day and you don't get up out of bed, yeah, you're failing. I'm sorry. Do something, and it doesn't have to be a home run shot. Hell, sometimes, winning a baseball game is just getting someone on first. Let's just get on base. You know what I mean? Like the small ball,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's interesting to speak to that because it's like habits and understanding yourself. I'm sorry. And self-awareness. Can you hear me better? There we go. And that's something that I believe it was Joe Rogan spoke a little bit to that, where he was saying that, hey, I don't do this regiment. What I do is I give myself milestones through the week just to accomplish by the week's end, because that gives him the flexibility and the ownership of it to go out and do it. And that's something I failed at. I tried to do the regiment. I tried to do the meal planning. I tried to do all these things. And as soon as I didn't get one of those done, I just said, oh, okay, well, it's just, then you see the failures, kind of not failures, but you see them ratcheting up where you're not making that small incremental progress because habits take time to develop.
I'm sure the same could be true for just not fitness, but also people's financial health.
110%.
Right? Keeping their bank account moving in a positive direction versus those small, purchases that you make throughout the day that you don't really think about.
They add up.
Just add up, and just, same with your body, right? And meals and workouts. You're just trying to move that. I really appreciate that, Frank, what you just said. I'm a new parent, right? Three weeks old. Everything I was doing before is out the window. I mean, it's all different now, right? It really is. I mean, but I haven't been able to work out since, right? I'm just still in this phase where I'm trying to figure out my new routine and my new lifestyle and how all these things fit into each other. And what you said actually really, really resonated here. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome, man. No, like I said, it's something that helps me out, especially because I travel so much. So I'll be really in a groove where I'm working out well and everything's going. And then all of a sudden, I got to catch this flight. I got to be there. And then when you get there, it's like, well, what's, I've walked into places like, oh yeah, we have a gym here. No problem. I walk downstairs, go into the facility. I'm like, okay, it's a universal machine and a pull-up bar. Okay. I'll make this work. I'll figure out a way.
So I'd like to ask you a question about, so one of the things that I started doing when I moved to Kansas City was I started boxing, and I never knew that I feel like I'm decent at it. I was pretty good at it, and there's a physical aspect as well as almost like I don't want to say spiritual, but there's like a connectedness to it when you start learning about yourself. And what I was doing was I was getting up at 5 in the morning. I ended up small, little, tiny, successes to where I started getting up at 5. They started talking to me about fighting. Then I'd start sparring, and sparring and punching a bag is completely different, obviously, right? Trying to hit a moving target, but whenever I did have that sparring partner in there, it was a completely different ball game. And could you speak to that feeling of, one, the spirituality of just that intimacy of fighting, and two, that getting into the ring the first time, perhaps?
Yeah, the thing that makes it hard is that makes fighting so interesting is that one, it's a lifetime goal that you'll never attain, I feel, to master yourself. And that's really what all things that are of difficulty we're doing. I mean, whether you're a soldier, you're an artist, you got to know about yourself. That's why why is training hard? Well, because it shows you your limitations. It shows you who you are. And then you can start building upon that. You have to break yourself down to figure out who you are and what you're made out of. And not that you might be happy with where you start at, but I always laugh when people tell me, I don't break. And then then you've never been pushed. You know what I mean? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm like, you can give me the baddest Navy SEAL, Special Forces, Delta guy in the world. I can break them. You know what I mean? It'll break. I mean, everybody has varying degrees of it. I'll break. You know what I mean? But that's not the point of it. The point is understanding your breaking points so that you can prolong them, so you can avoid areas that are going to put you in those situations when it comes to life. And then now and that's just you on a bag, per se, you're learning about yourself. And then now you add the element of putting another human being inside there. And now you got to know about them. And now you're learning on the fly. You're trying to understand what, you bring to the table, what you understand about yourself that's pretty universal as far as all humans go. And then you're starting to learn the different intricacies and mindset of the individual in front of you. And so now you're battling yourself, you're battling him, and it's this mixture going back and forth that's constantly evolving and floating. Whenever somebody tells me like, this is the way to do something, I'm all, it's like a history book, man, or a geography map. The minute you write it down, it's no longer accurate. You know what I mean? Things have changed. It's a good idea. It's a starting point, but nothing's written in stone,
Yeah. What about your upcoming fight and you're preparing for that? Actually, let me caveat it to you have the stem cell. You're stronger than you were. Did you ever have a time where you were getting surgeries or anything like that and you had to take pain medication or how do you still do that, or do you just substitute with CBD now?
I use CBD and kratom. I'm big on both of them.
For sure.
I think CBD fixes the underlying problem, and it does give some immediate pain relief. Especially some of the stronger stuff that I can get from American Shaman. I have noticed, to where I can take something and feel almost, within 15 minutes, a lack of pain. In fact, it's funny. I put the cream on every day religiously. Like I probably go through a large bottle a week. And, in the morning I put it on, and at night after I shower and I get ready to get in bed, I redose. Well, I forgot what happened. I wasn't feeling well, feeling under the weather last week. So I skipped the gym Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I didn't go and train or do anything. I stayed in bed, the man cold, right? And so I was out of my routine. I didn't put the cream on. Well, the last time I had lifted was on Monday. And by Thursday, all of a sudden I got up and I was like, oh my God, my elbow, what the hell is wrong? I think I tore something. Like I'm sitting there, like I'm getting ready to make an appointment. And I'm like, what did I do in bed? Like, did my wife roll on me the wrong way? Or did I I'm trying to train, I feel like almost a guy who had a night of drinking. I'm trying to figure out, how did I get hurt? And then it finally dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I'm off my routine. I haven't taken, any vitamins. I haven't taken any of my CBD. I haven't gotten my heart rate up. I'm like, oh, my elbow is falling apart because of lack of my routine. So I immediately went in and rubbed the CBD cream on my elbow. And within about 30 minutes, it went back down. I'm like, oh, I just, damn, that was dumb. I do that just like people still do. They're like, well, how do I know it's still working? Are you in pain? No, then it's still working. Don't stop taking it, But yeah, for a while there, I really, especially actually, like if you can watch my last fight in October, I fought a guy named Roy Nelson.
For sure.
And in between rounds, you can see me put my hands on top of the cage instead of sitting in the chair. The reason why I had to do that is because my labrums are torn. Oh. And I was having such an issue with bringing my hands above my shoulder that if you watch the fight, like I'm really moving my body around, because for me to throw a punch, I looked like a baseball pitcher. I basically had to throw my body at you and relax my arm and fling my arm. As far as throwing a punch where I actually contracted my shoulder in any way would make me scream. And so I was just trying to loosen my shoulder up in between rounds so that I didn't want to make it very obvious to his corner. They're like, oh, there's something wrong with his arm. Keep throwing overhand rights. Maybe something will get through. That was just some of the issues that, as a fighter we deal with. And so between the stem cell and then, like I said, the CBD stuff is phenomenal, because even with the stem cell, it's healed me up in a lot of ways, but I still have inflammation and pain. Whereas the CBD really, it's amazing how much inflammation it helps avoid in my body. And then with the kratom, before I go work out, I'll just take some kratom, and that helps me, not feel hardly anything. And so much healthier than me, in the past. And my wife actually did an interview on it. I wasn't the happiest about it, but she kind of touched on the subject that me and pain pills maybe had a little bit better of a relationship than we should have had throughout the years.
Well, Frank, she hit it spot on the head, and I think we've all had that issue coming out of the military and the VA. The way they just shove pills down your throat, and a lot of guys do get addicted to this stuff, man. And now that we're older, and some of us have went down the hill, some of us, we have this community now, and we all talk about it, and we can all piggyback off each other with this information. And we don't take pain pills anymore, or a lot of us don't take brain pills. The CBD is like it really is it's a mental thing as well as a anti-inflammatory that just really, man, y'all developed a hell of a thing, man. Well, I mean, and honestly, like the nanotechnology that you have and the speed in which it works.
Right. It's that absorption is so important for sure. But that's just like what we were talking about last week with Dr. Kaufman and the VA and how he'd like to see changes there, you know. And Joey touched on it too a while ago in a private conversation about how he wants to go in and try and make these changes in a big way.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah.
Maybe one day, Frank, you'll get the opportunity to speak upon this in a big way for veterans, man, because you're such a big influence, and guys of our past listen to fighters. We just do. Like, we see your struggle. We've been through not the same struggle, but it's that combat mindset, that warrior mindset. And
they're extraordinarily close on the same lines. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that in my training I've pulled from books like, I mean, as old as Colonel Boyd, you know, as far as fighting strategies and whatnot, and, you know, the OODA cycle. That's something that I actually use when I'm teaching seminars and talking about how to observe and orientate, decide, and act. And, you know, there's combat strategies are universal, you know, and so, yeah, you know, it's funny when people talk about that. I feel like that warriors, we have an affinity towards this issue with the pain pills because one, you know, especially, I mean, now I think the doctors are much more cognitive of the problems that can happen by just, you know, freely handing these out. But I mean, I remember years ago, I had an argument with my wife. She was, you know, she used the word I think we all hate to hear, and she called me an addict. She was just, you're a pain pill addict. You know, she goes, I had a script for 180 a month, and I was still fishing out other people's to try to get more. You know, it wasn't enough. And so, you know, and I kind of looked at her, and in so many words, she went kind of too far because she's like, well, you know, I thought you were a fighter. You know, you're a pussy. You know, I mean, you can't handle pain. And I was like, no, it's not that I can't handle pain. It's just that I've lost to the battle of dealing with pain 24 hours a day. If you said that, hey, I'm going to put you under this extreme torture test for the next 30 minutes, it doesn't even make my adrenaline drop. I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. 30 minutes, okay. It's when you tell me I'm going to have to, you know, I try to explain it to her, be like, if I stuck a needle in your ass, right, just a pin needle, and I stuck it there, you could deal with it once or twice. And if I stabbed you a couple of times, your adrenaline drops, whatever. But if I left that in you and you had to get up and put your clothes on and go to work tomorrow, and every time you sat in a chair, and every time you ate lunch, every time you go to sit there, I'm just always in a pissed off mood because the pain just never goes away. You know, you can't sleep at night because you're just sitting there and you're staring at the wall, just wishing for some kind of a reprieve from the consistent, agonizing, low ambient pain that's always there. So that's what was the indulgence for me, was that, you know, like, obviously I enjoy a pain pill as much as the next guy that was addicted to them, you know, as far as how it feels. But the thing I think I was most addicted to was just the lack of pain, not hurting for a few minutes or for a few hours, you know, and it, you know, completely changed my personality. I became tolerable. And then that was another thing that led into it. Every time I had to go in front of people, it was almost kind of like, I called it my personality pill. If I wasn't on something, then my personality, people would come away with two different distinct opinions of me when they met me. And I correlated it directly to whether if I was basically high or not. I was either a really nice, outgoing guy, or I didn't say 5 words to you. I wouldn't talk, make eye contact. I was the quickest way I can get home and get in bed, get off my feet so I could start retrieving from pain, you know?
Yeah. I really appreciate you talking about that so frankly. Myself, personally, as a veteran navigator, I'm a peer support specialist, and a lot of veterans have that issue with, I'm not going to beat around the bush, addiction. And it's a hard issue. Myself, been in recovery for about 10 years, and I've had so many issues in my life, broken relationships, legal problems and all of that. And that's one thing that we're helping veterans with. And I really like what you said and appreciate your frank and honest opinion about it. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, guys. See, I think it just takes more guys that people can relate to, just admitting that, hey, look, I have the same problems you have. You know, I mean, it's the old expression of I put on my pants one leg at a time.
Yeah.
Like, look, you know, when I first broke my femur, that's when I really got introduced to pain medication. And it was just a battle for probably about 12 years after that, you know, where I really just dealt with it difficult, you know, where I would have months where I was good and clean and I didn't have any problems. And then, you know, I'd be around the wrong person at the gym. Oh, sorry, guys. You guys got me back?
Yeah, we got you.
You're good. You're here.
Sorry. You know, be around the wrong person, then all of a sudden, like, hey, man, you want a couple pills? I'm like, yeah, sure, here's a couple bucks. I'll grab a couple. And then, you know, my wife immediately could tell and just, then it was the self-loathing of like, well, why did I make this decision? I know where this is going to go every time. You know, why am I not mentally strong enough to overcome this? And then that's when I brought it down to fighting again. I'm like, well, it's not that, about mental strength. It's about just putting yourself in positions to win, and that's basically what I started doing. I was like, all right, I'll just make sure that I don't have access to certain things. And if I do, I make sure that that was one thing with the CBD really helped me out with. I'm like, well, if I can find another way not to be in pain all the time, it'll probably help take away my temptation to want to do these things. And now actually at this point in my career in life, I've had procedures done and had scripts for pain pills, and I haven't gotten filled them. And even I've taken a step further. I have filled them, and I keep them there at the house just in case, like, the kids get hurt or somebody needs one, because it's still a medication that used properly is smart. And that's probably given me the most pride in my life, knowing that I can have something available to me. But because I've fixed the underlying problems and addressed them properly, the temptation's a lot, less.
Yeah, well, I think that also, and just to kind of speak to what everyone's kind of saying, just in a different way, my mind's taking this in. I've never been on pain pills, but to think about that intricate trap that is, because when you have something for a prolonged period of time, you're going to act differently. You're going to engage people differently. You're going to have different outcomes for the negative, especially if you're in pain and you're not addressing it. And when you have that pill, all of a sudden the pain goes away, and you're getting that positive feedback from people that you're being much more positive, you're getting better outcomes. So it's almost like a self-reinforcing thing that has to be addressed. And that's where we try to, especially with the Veteran Navigator Network, is peer support, and building that community is what we're all about, because that's really that awareness. And that same way you spoke about awareness earlier is it's critical to understand it so that you can grow and learn from it and move on from it.
Yeah, and also I think sometimes a trap for some people is that our personality is directly related to our financial well-being. If someone pays me money to show up somewhere and I show up and I'm in asshole mode because my neck and back and knees and everything is just crushed, chances of me getting hired again, or that guy saying, hey, you know what, there was a great experience having Frank Mir on or doing this, we should, do that again, or let's have him back, or, you should hire him and bring him out to talk or to be here and sign autographs. Probably not going to happen, So like, that guy's a dick. The guy never even smiled. What an asshole. You know what I mean? And then me, if I don't smile, it's like, it's because you're stuck up and you're an egomaniac or whatnot. Not just like, no, I'm just in pain and I'm an asshole. It's about as simple as it goes,
Yeah. Hey, Frank, you can't charge $50 anymore. It's gone down a little bit.
So that being said, I think that's why, that it is. There's just so many different traps that just, and look, that's the thing about humans that I love about martial arts has taught me, is that my greatest enemy is me, because he knows me better than any fucking buddy else knows me. And there's nothing better in the world. My greatest talent is to be able to bullshit myself. There's nobody I'm better at lying to than me. You know what I mean? Like, I got it down pat. You know what I mean? And that's just a dangerous combination. A lot of us have to, and that's the truth for, I think, most people. A lot of times like, I can get away with that. That's not going to be a problem. I can do this. And it's like, no, start looking at the results of your actions and not just what's going in your head, because it's funny how in our head we'll justify things and see things from a very tainted lens. It's like, that's not reality. Sometimes the people around you really do have a much better understanding of who you are, because they're not seeing what you're thinking. They're just seeing what you're doing. And that's really who we are, is by our actions.
You've hit the nail on the head, sir. That is, in a lot of ways, I have bullshit myself when getting out of the Army, and taking those pain pills. I wrote a song, and one line in it is, I take 2 in the morning and suddenly I have patience. Because I'm in pain all the time. I got patience. I feel fucking good now. I'm great to go. I can take on the world, but do I have one in my pocket? Always tapping my pocket, making sure it's there, or look in my book bag. That's all I thought about was that pill bottle. Do I have them? Do I have them? And you become a slave to it, and it's just.
I've had some my probably most embarrassing moments, and I'm free. And my wife hates it that I'm honest. She doesn't hate it. She gets scared sometimes, but I feel like sometimes being honest, I find a strength in that. You know what I mean? Like telling people, like, "Oh, no, this is what I suck at." I remember, 10 years ago, landing places that people were like, have me come out for fights, and guys, they ask the same question they always ask. Hey, man, is there, here's your hotel room. We got you checked in. Tomorrow we're going to meet for this time. Do you need anything? And being that guy, to actually have that kind of lack of self-respect that you sit there and go, well, hey, I mean, do you know any way I can get a hold of, a Percocet or a pain pill, and to actually have to know that I actually have done that in aspects of my life? That's embarrassing, and knowing that it's like, oh man, did you really, there's times I sit in bed now going, man, I really did that. I really asked, or I really behaved in this way. Like, that's why now when my wife goes, you were an addict, I'm like, yeah, 100%. I hate saying that because here, I've been champion of the world, one of the baddest guys, to walk, the planet, and then sit there and go, well, this little tiny white pill fucking brought me to my knees, literally. I didn't have any moments where I was offering sexual favors, but.
Yeah, that is crazy. That Watson 540, that was my Lortabs. I just remember it, that feeling, man, and it just. Oh, I'm so glad that America is finally opening their eyes to see this is complete horseshit, and just all these communities and you speaking upon this, man, is just it's crazy powerful.
It's going to open a lot of eyes. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's.
I hope so. I hope it helps people out. And like I said, look, I'm still an addict. I try not to ever tell anybody there's a cure, there's a way to fix things. I still, have issues. I'm smart enough to know to replace it with other things. It's like being on a diet. If you tell me you're going to starve yourself, I'm like, it's not going to work. But, for me, I struggle with my weight all the time. The only way I can beat it is that every 2 or 3 hours I eat. So that way I eat something healthy. Because I know that if I get hungry, my intentions go out the window. Mm-hmm. If you get me in a hungry mood and that hunger kicks in, I ain't going to make the right decision. I'm just not. You know what I mean? I know me. I'm going to jump in the car and drive somewhere I probably shouldn't be and order something I shouldn't. And so with the medications and stuff like that, the same thing. I was just out here. Ron was making fun of me. I carry a backpack because when I travel, I have so many multivitamins and everything from all the different CBD products that I take on down, D vitamin, this, that. It takes me almost 15 minutes to take all my vitamins every day. All the different pills and capsules that I'm going to, I got 10 of these, 5 of these. And people sit there and stare at me. And I'm like, I'm an obsessive person. I can either obsess on this or I can obsess on other stuff. I found obsess about my health,
Well, I am crazy impressed that this, you would never know it, watching you, and you've been amazing to watch all these years, and just to get this kind of behind the scenes thing, I would never put it in my head, man. Honestly, it.
Oh yeah, when you see snippets of Frank, he's in the ring fighting, it's just this beast of a man, just going. Wow.
Yeah.
Although I did, when you were saying about what a hungry Frank would look like, That sounds pretty scary.
Yeah.
So
So I was reading recently. So your contract's up April 1st. So you're a free agent now. What's life like now? What's everything looking forward to?
You know what? Honestly, I just want to keep fighting. I enjoy fighting. I enjoy the lifestyle. And now that it doesn't hurt as bad, I'm pretty much what I feel like I'm in this sweet spot of my career where I physically can still do things, but I've learned so much more. I have almost the mind of a coach now where I understand things to a deeper level than most fighters do. That's only going to last so long to where my mind will still be here, but then my body's going to eventually every day I'm a little bit less than I was the day before because, hey, Mother Nature takes its course on everybody, right? So I feel like I have probably only about 3 to 5 more years of being able to compete, safely with I'm not, not scaring the hell out of my wife and my kids, And so I just want to take advantage of it and fight as much as possible. So that's one of the things that I think, signing with one company might be a difficult endeavor just because, then I fight once every 8 to 9 months. Whereas if, I just want to get fights. And like, ideally, if I could fight every 3 or 4 months now, that would be, my optimal idea, go out there and just compete because, I enjoy fighting. I really do. I think a lot of people, it's like a musician who actually gets into music because he likes it. And there are some musicians that probably got into it because they had a certain level of talent and they found out they could make money at it or get women. And so that's why they do it. And we have fighters that I don't really think they enjoy fighting. They just enjoy all the things that go with it. You probably see that in the military. You probably got guys that legitimately love being a soldier. They're going to re-enlist and go on tour. And they just, when they're deployed, like they're in their element. You have other guys that are like, well, I did it because I wanted the college and, or the the money to buy a car when I was 18. I wouldn't have had any other way, And so, hey, both are out there doing it. But, when you have somebody that actually loves doing something, I think that's why I'm able to keep up for such a long time. There was one point in my last fight, and it was about 2 minutes left in it. And I knew that if I didn't make a mistake, the fight was a shutout. I basically won every round. But Roy Nelson has like 15 knockouts with overhand rights. So I didn't want to fall victim to it and go, okay, basically I'm pitching a shutout. Let's just not do anything stupid now, Mm-hmm. And so I looked up at the clock and realized, oh man, there's only 2 minutes left in this round. I think some people, when they look up at a clock, they're like, oh, I got 2 more minutes of this. I actually was sad that like, okay, for the rest of my life, this is only going to last for 2 more minutes. Like this moment is about to be ended. You know what I mean? Like, and I won't be here for months again or for however long until my next fight. And so that's what's always in my mind when I fight people. I'm like, I'm so happy that I'm here right now. Like when I'm walking around the ring and looking, I'm all this, it's probably very graphic. And my wife hates I use this analogy, but it's like, it's like sex, like when you have it, like, oh my God, this is going on right now. And I can't, I'm like, I can't wait till the next time I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's
hey, buddy, you're not even done with this one.
So I have 2 questions for you. Really good questions, I think. So in your wish list of the next 3 to 5 fights, right? Hopefully forever, right? And also the other question, do you own a finger painting by Rampage Jackson? I saw you. Can you tell me what was going through your mind when you were at the pre-fight conference? Because you definitely had a lot on your. It was pretty hilarious. Do you remember that? Rampage Jackson, you're sitting right next to him, and a reporter asked him a question. He's like, you know what? I'm not sure about this fighting gig, but I'm really getting into finger paints. I like to do painting with my fingers, and I like to do all these kinds of things, and I think that's what I'm going to do my career with for the rest of my life. Do you remember that? Yeah.
I think that Quentin has a very interesting personality. I think that, it's funny is sometimes guys I think are almost too smart for maybe the line they've been dealt, the cards they've been dealt with in life. And so it comes off strange. I think Quentin probably would have been very successful if he had a life to where he would have been, I don't know what his parents grew up at, but if he would have been in a situation where, he could have got into some kind of tech world, the guy, definitely just sitting and having a conversation with him, he thinks outside the box, which I always kind of equate that to a higher level of intelligence sometimes. People can see things and he's pointing things out. I'll sit there like, that's pretty observant of you that you notice that, and so, but on the flip side, he also has, he could be a little crazy. I remember one time we were doing an autograph session together, meet and greet, and we were at Toyo Tires. They were doing this car drifting. And so he and I were both going to be there. So we kind of figured that, like, what we'll do is that people will line up in one line. They can come to me first, and then as soon as I shake their hand, then they go to you. Instead of people lining up for both of us, seeing you and then get in the back of my line, let's streamline this. I'm very much into social decorum because I'm a very efficient person. I hate inefficiency. That whole hurry up and wait thing would kill me. Makes me go insane. And so I'm sitting there. So because we're doing this, my back is slightly to him at about a 45-degree angle. And as we're going on, all of a sudden I hear a slap, and it kind of catches my attention. I look around, you know what I mean? I don't see nothing. So I go back talking, and 3 or 4 handshakes later, I hear it again. Someone's getting hit. And now I look over and I don't see anybody on the ground. I don't see a commotion. None of the aftermath of usually if someone put their hand on someone's face that you'd be accustomed to. No one's ripping someone's shirt off right now. Like, what the hell's going on? So I finally look over. Now my wife, who's standing in front of me, has been trying to get my attention. She looks like an owl. Her eyes are so big. She's like trying to so finally I'm like, babe, just stop. Come here. What's going on? She goes, Quentin's slapping people. I'm like, what? I guess this was a thing that people like to walk up to him and get slapped in the face.
Jesus.
And he was pretty heavy-handed. So we're sitting there, and I'm actually talking to him about it now. Like, so wait a minute. So you guys come up and he goes, yeah, it's great, man. Who'd ever thought that I'd be in a position where I could slap white boys in the face?
Jesus Christ. Oh.
Yeah, so Quentin's always had some pretty, every time I'm around him, something colorful ends up happening.
That's awesome.
Well, Frank, thank you for everything, and thank you for sitting down with us today. It's been a pleasure, and I hope, and next time you're in Kansas City, please stop on by, man, and come hang out.
Yeah, I will, man. I'll hook up with Ricky, and we'll make sure that I come down.
Absolutely, man. Well, you have a blessed day, and thank you for everything, dude.
Oh, thanks, guys. It was good talking to you.
Likewise.